From allergies to zinc deficiencies, hangry to hay fever, we provide easy-to-absorb information to improve your health. It sounds like health on Texas A&M Health Talk. Howdy, welcome to Sounds Like Health. This is Mary Lee Meyer.
I'm her co-host, Sam Kraft.
And we are here today with Dr. Steve Bender, who's calling in from the Texas A&M College of Dentistry out of Dallas. He's a clinical assistant professor and the director of sleep medicine and facial pain. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Perfect. So our topic today is, why do we sometimes wake up grumpy?
Slangry is my term that I'm coining. I'm trademarking it. It's mine.
It's out there now, so it's got to be used.
Yes.
Let's make it a hashtag. Why do we wake up grumpy? I know I do more than half the time.
You know, the biggest factor for that is the time that we may take a nap. There's this entity that we call sleep inertia. And that's just a kind of a fancy term that means basically we wake up and we feel grumpy, or we feel disoriented or confused, or, you know, still tired. And it has to do with how long that sleep period is. And I think most of the research would agree that it seems to be related to when we take a nap or when we go to sleep period. If we start getting into deeper sleep stages, we're going to be more prone to this sleep inertia when we wake up. So bottom line is, a longer nap is going to include more of the deeper sleep time, which is going to then lead to more of this grumpiness when we wake up.
Oh, that's definitely true for me, at least, because I feel like whenever I accidentally fall asleep on the couch or need to wake up pretty quickly, I feel like I'm always angrier.
You're like startled awake.
Yeah, I'm in a worse mood than if I decided to take a nap for a set amount of time in my bed.
I don't know, though. Like, I mean, I'm not a morning person. I know lots of people say they're not morning people. I mean, is that waking up in the morning being grumpy, is that kind of the same concept as waking up from a nap angry?
It certainly can be. I mean, there are people that prefer morning or prefer night. And so if they're a night person and they wake up in the morning, they're generally not as alert. But there's other factors, too, that can make somebody not necessarily a morning person. That could be related to their own circadian rhythms within themselves, or if there's disturbed sleep, like if somebody is not sleeping good, either from, you know, some sleep disorder like sleep apnea or snoring, they're just not going to get good sleep. And so when they wake up in the morning, they're not going to be very happy.
What is a circadian rhythm?
So circadian rhythms are basically a rhythm, are things that tend to occur on about a 24-hour cycle. It's usually not exactly 24 hours, but there's certain things that happen within our system that happen on a very regular pattern that we call a circadian rhythm. So it involves about a 24-hour period.
So is that maybe why a nap is not as satisfying to some people, because they can't fully get into a full rhythm or just a deep sleep?
No, not necessarily. In fact, shorter naps have been shown to actually make people feel better. In other words,
so power naps are a thing.
No, I hate power naps.
Power naps are definitely a thing.
Oh, power naps are amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Please go on. I'd like to hear more about power naps.
No, I mean, that's a good point, because what research has found is that like a 10 to 20 minute nap is ideal for most people, because you're not really getting into deep sleep, which is going to occur longer into the sleep period. So you have this brief period of time, you know, 10 to 20 minutes of sleep, and most people, they wake up feeling more refreshed. They don't have that sleep inertia that we were talking about, and that seems to carry with them for a good 3 hours or so.
Power naps.
I guess my problem is that if I'm tired enough to want to sleep, it's all just mental for me. It's all my reaction to not being able to go to bed. Like, go to bed and sleep.
Like you fighting it, or you just still?
I think I'm just angry that I can only sleep for 15 minutes.
Oh,
and so then I wake up It's a personal problem.
Yeah, it sounds very personal. You should see somebody. No, did that come out loud? I'm sorry.
No,
No.
you're fine.
I'm just kidding. No,
But actually,
there are a lot of different reasons people nap. It's like, okay, they're sleep deprived, so they feel like they need to catch up, or they're shift workers, or some people kind of do it prophylactically. In other words, I've got this all nighter coming up. I better take a power nap, if you will. And so there's that. There's the reason that you're taking a nap that can affect how you feel, trying to go to sleep, and then when you wake up. There's, if you were to be sleep deprived, somebody that's sleep deprived may need a longer nap than somebody that only needs a shorter nap. If you've had good sleep, but you like to take naps, well, then you're going to be much more accepting to, I got 10, 15 minutes here. I think I'll just take a brief power nap. Whereas if you're sleep deprived, that's just going to upset you. So again, there's a lot of different rationales, a lot of different theories on what makes a good nap, when to take a nap, and then how we feel when we wake up from a nap.
and what does it mean to be sleep deprived? Because I definitely was a little bit late to work today because I was struggling to wake up. So I feel like I'm a little sleep deprived, but I know I'm not because I got 9 hours last night.
Maybe you slept too much.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could. You can feel more of that sleep inertia when you sleep too long, because again, that's going to be more deep sleep during that longer period of time. But sleep time is not necessarily an indicator of good sleep. Most adults, we should sleep about 8 hours, maybe anywhere from 7 to 9 hours. But it needs to be good quality sleep. In other words, going through all the sleep cycles, not being disturbed by our environment, not being disturbed by how we're breathing while we're sleeping, or, other sleep disorders that can be a result of what we eat before we go to bed, or just within our own biology, things that are happening.
Maybe like a 3-year-old kicking you in the side in the middle of the night, because that's what happens to my life right now.
That could definitely do it. Or a lot of people sleep with pets, and we think, gosh, they're really comforting to me and things like that. But you look at that pet sleep cycle is going to be way different than ours. I mean, everybody's seen their dog get up and kind of walk in a circle and then go back to sleep. Well, if they're doing that in your bed during your sleep period, that's not real conducive to good sleep.
I guess it's little things like that you don't really notice, but they do affect your sleep. I had a sleep study done a little while ago for sleep apnea, and they told me that I woke up anywhere from between 300 to 400 times in a 7-hour span, and I was blown away because I don't remember waking up at all.
Yeah, if we wake up for less than 30 seconds, we really don't remember it.
That's wild.
Wow. And speaking of distractions, a big distraction for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, is, I play on my phone before I go to bed every night. And sometimes I feel like that almost keeps me awake. Is that true, or is that just how I feel?
That's absolutely true for a lot of different reasons. And, all of us have become so addicted to our devices, even to the point of some people will put them under their pillows so that they can hear it or feel the vibration, or, leaving it turned on face up so if it lights up. But the science of the whole deal is the light emitted from these screens, what we call blue light, affects melatonin production. So usually melatonin will start to be produced in our brain when it starts getting dark, around dusk, which is, going to be 6, 7, 8 in the evening. And that's when the sleepiness process starts to get underway. And so we need that slow darkening to begin to feel sleepy so that we can sleep. And then melatonin continues to be produced throughout the night. And so that's why we sleep in a dark environment. Now, we throw in our devices with this blue emitting light, and that's going to alter or even delay the production of melatonin, so we don't get sleepy. Our body doesn't cool down to enhance good sleep. Or if it's popping up during our sleep period, it's going to alter the normal production of this hormone, melatonin, so that we don't sleep well. So, one thing that the tech companies fortunately have kind of caught on to is like, hey, let's put a blue blocker on our devices. You can either punch a button, or they, screen covers or things like that, or, people can put on glasses or whatever to block that blue light to help the production of melatonin. But bottom line is, for healthy sleep, we do need good sleep hygiene. We need to intentionally prepare ourselves for sleep. And for some of us, that means, okay, I got to put this device away. I've got to rid my brain of the mess that's happening during the day, the urgency. Let's just calm down. Let's turn the TV off. Let's quiet the environment. Let's cool the environment, so that we can sleep better.
Well, my our child's pediatrician, we took him in, and we were talking about electronic devices. He's 3, going on 4, so he likes to get on the tablet. And the doctor said that's fine, but you really should kill it maybe like an hour or 2 before bedtime to really kind of give your brain a chance to slow down. Is there like an advised timeline for getting off your device at night?
Well, ideally, you would want to get off of it around dusk. In other words, around the time of normal melatonin production, you should get off of it. We try to get our patients to kind of start shutting it down at least 3 hours before they plan to go to bed. And that means food.
3 hours.
Yeah. That means their devices. That means eating, drinking, watching. If something's really intense on TV, just do something else.
Anything that will just kind of stimulate your brain into other things.
Yeah. And children, wow. That's especially important. I mean, I see for a lot of different reasons, but I see a lot of recommendations that say an hour top screen time for kids.
Wow.
And what do you think about melatonin supplements? Is that good or bad?
Well, my personal opinion is that it is good, but we have to remember melatonin is a hormone. It's not a benign substance. It's not a drug that we add. So that's good and bad. It's a naturally occurring substance. And for some people, really small doses, being like 3 to 5 milligrams, taken at dusk can be very helpful. But anytime we start throwing, artificial or extra hormones into our body, it's going to deplete the natural production of that particular hormone. So we have to consider that over time, our normal production of that hormone could be diminished. Now, it's going to diminish anyway, and that's why as we age, it gets less and less. And that's why for some people, supplementation is good. But in small amounts around dusk, it's probably much safer than a lot of artificial agents that we take, sleep aids.
It works wonderful for me because I take it occasionally, and man, I'm 1 3 millimeter or a 3 milligram, and I am out within like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
I feel like I can fall asleep whenever, at any time of day, for any length of time.
I can see that.
Sometimes if I get annoyed at something or if I get angry, I call it a rage nap. So I'll just quit the situation, sleep for an hour or 2. But obviously I can't do that every single moment of the day, or else work would have something to say.
You sleep too much. That's why you're angry.
Yeah, I'm sensing some problems here, but we could talk about that later.
And speaking of sleep hygiene, you mentioned temperature. Does temperature play a role in making you sleepy?
Yeah, I mean, internally, that circadian clock that we were talking about earlier, that's when that starts to kind of shift towards a sleep period, if you will. Our body temperature does start to decrease. And so we can help that process along with colder sleep environments. So for some people, just lowering the thermostat for the sleep period helps them sleep better, as opposed to, if it's too warm, then it's going to combat what the body's trying to do by cooling down our system. So yeah, a cool environment is definitely going to be more conducive to good sleep.
So I'm not weird when I go to the hotel and I turn the AC down to like 65 or like 62, just to freeze the room, because I just really love getting under a warm blanket and sleeping in a cold room.
Yeah, and in fact,
Not just me.
no, it's not just you. Unless you want it to be just you, and then we can call you special. But in reality, it's everybody that we tend to do better with colder environments. In fact, too, tend to feel more secure with blankets on. Now, I don't know the science to that. I know I've read about it, but we tend to feel more secure with these heavy blankets on us.
Yeah, I've heard
That's
good things
interesting.
about those weighted blankets.
Yeah. I've heard and read a little bit, but I'm not going to claim to be an expert on that.
I feel like I would wake up and be feeling like I was trapped.
Well, apparently I've read that granted, I don't know if I've read anything credible about it, but I've read that they're good for anxiety. Like they're good. They make you feel secure.
I guess kind of like a storm vest for dogs or whatever,
Yeah.
like the thunder vest or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Like a burrito wrap for a person.
Oh, like a really tight. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
And then does diet have anything to do with creating a good sleep environment? I've heard you're not supposed to eat sugar right before you go to bed, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, diet can definitely play a role, but I think the most important thing is just not to eat or drink within about 3 hours before bed, so that we can let the metabolic or the processing kind of do its thing. Because if we start throwing food into our system right before bed, then it's going to try to convert that into energy, which is going to heat us up and stimulate our brain. So we definitely want to watch what we eat, but probably more importantly, when we eat it.
So that's a good point. Is there an advised time of when not to eat past, like not to eat past 8:30, or I guess what more along the lines of don't eat this close to your bedtime? Because I know people have different sleep schedules.
Well, at least 3 hours before bedtime, before you want to go to
3 hours.
sleep. Yeah, seems to be the consensus on timing for food.
And do you know anything about when you eat a big meal, sometimes it just makes you sleepy?
Oh, like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving nap.
Yep.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Do you want me to talk about that? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we with that circadian cycle, we tend to have not only at bedtime, but about midday. About 12 to 2, there's a dip in that cycle where we just naturally feel more prone to go to sleep. And so, you think about when you eat lunch, or especially a big lunch, is going to be around that time period. So a lot of people think, wow, I just ate a big meal. Now I'm really tired because of that, where it could be, yeah, a little bit of that. In other words, we ate too much. Now a lot of energy is being used to try to process that meal, but it also goes along with this circadian dip, this naturally occurring time in our normal 24-hour cycle where we're going to feel sleepy anyway. So, getting back to napping, some people feel like they do really well if they nap after lunch, because that's when we're most sleepy, and it just seems to be an easier time to fall asleep, take a little nap. But then on the converse of that, when that person wakes up, they're going to be more prone to that inertia or that feeling of grogginess because they were more sleepy for the nap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Total sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I still believe in power naps, though. We'll stand by them.
Well, yeah. And yeah, you should just die on the hill with that one. That's a good one.
Have you heard anything about split phase sleeping? Where you sleep for 4 hours, wake up, do some things, go back to sleep for 4 hours, and then wake up for your day?
I've heard a little bit about that. It's probably not new, but it's being considered as this new trend of phase sleeping or whatever. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that it's kind of being modeled after early man. In other words, they didn't have these longer sleep periods. They kind of slept, whatever the word is, for protection, for hunting. So when we look at sleeping 8 hours and then being awake for 8 to 12 hours, whatever, that's more of a more modern tradition. But I think trying to change to something prehistoric, if you will, would be difficult because our genetics, our biology has changed over time to be adapted to what we do now. In other words, we sleep for 8 hours, which is considered healthy, and then we stay awake or for the remainder of the day, or we, nap.
In your time with the sleep studies that you've done and all the sleep research and everything you've done, and the people that come in and see you, what are the most common things that you see people coming in for help?
Being that I have a pain clinic, most people that I see that's going to be usually their primary complaint. Now, I do see some people that just want to see me for sleep. They've got what we call excessive daytime sleepiness, and that's just basically, and I forgot your term, but slangry, yes, where they just don't feel good because they're not sleeping good. They know they're not sleeping good. They may or may not be aware that they snore or stop breathing. So there's that group, but most of the people I see have some kind of pain complaint. And it's very interesting that if we look at sleep and pain, usually, you'd think, well, pain is affecting sleep. But if the research tells us that we're more prone to have a pain condition following a period of poor sleep. And so when we see our pain patients, we do ask a lot about sleep. And some of the things that they will then also tell us is, yes, I feel tired when I wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person. Or I have insomnia. In other words, I can't sleep, where that's sometimes the brain can play tricks on us where we think we're not sleeping, but we actually are sleeping, but our brain tells us we're not. So insomnia, feeling bad in the morning, anxiety, depression. Sometimes people will say they wake up and their heart's racing or they're moving around a lot in sleep. So some of those are, well, that's probably just a few of the things that we hear, but those are probably the most common.
I have a pretty big question for you, right, as we're about to wrap up.
Sure.
Can you explain a little bit about why sleep and pain is associated with the College of Dentistry?
That's a great question. And I get asked that very frequently by not only patients, but students and sometimes faculty. One of the easy answers is that when students are surveyed, probably five years out of dental school, one of the most common things that they say they missed or they didn't get enough of in dental school is pain, how to diagnose pain, how to treat pain, because that is the number one thing people go see any kind of clinician for, whether it's their physician, nurse practitioner. It's usually a pain complaint that drives somebody to seek care. Well, obviously in dentistry, we see a lot of pain conditions, and traditionally we've been taught these very mechanistic ways. In other words, see a problem, fix a problem. Well, we get out of school and sometimes we don't see a problem, and so it becomes harder to fix a problem. So with these surveys, it was brought to the attention of some people at the school that, hey, here's this dentist out in the community that does treat pain. Maybe he'd be interested. And so we were brought in to help with that, to help students identify patients with pain, but also knowing what we know now about pain and the interrelationship with sleep. Those two go together really nice. So not only are we trying to teach students about diagnosing pain that they can't see, but also interviewing patients more effectively, finding out not just where it hurts, how does it feel, but what else is going on in your life? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? What kind of activities are you doing? So it's a more holistic approach to looking at our patients.
Hopefully we can change the world one nap at a time.
One nap at a time.
That's a bumper sticker, I tell you.
Yeah, it is. I like that.
So thank you, Dr. Bender, for coming on the show with us.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
And this has been another episode of Sounds Like Health.
Thank you for joining us on Texas A&M Health Talk, a production of the Texas A&M University Health Science Center. Visit us on the web at vitalrecord.tamhsc.edu, where you'll find answers to all of your health questions. Until next time, stay healthy.